Auburn's passing game almost had it going last year. So how much higher do the Tigers have to climb to be the best in the conference? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the 404. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Joining me, as he does every single Thursday, is my good friend Jacob Goins. It's time to get going. We're getting it going on a Thursday. Jacob, as always, I want to thank you for joining me on today's show. We're going to talk about that passing game and some things we noted here. But let's go ahead and let's jump right in. Auburn is an interesting case study. They're a very interesting case study. The 5-7 record would have you making a lot of assumptions about where they finished statistically, but surprisingly, they were in the top half of the conference in a lot of statistics. That passing game that everybody complained about produced 3,167 yards total. 2,700 of that came from Peyton Thorne. How is it Auburn can do so well statistically, but still finish below 500?
It's wild. And the passing game is not the only one that you can look at. I mean, the numbers that Auburn had last year, Mike, across the board, offensively, defensively, special teams were in. We've had that conversation a couple of weeks ago, but just across the board, you look at what Auburn did on the field last year statistically. 5-7 never should have happened. That never should have been a possibility. I mean, 7 or 8 wins should have happened last year, but Auburn, as we know, found some unique ways to lose games, whether it was the Oklahoma game or scoring 7 points at home against Vanderbilt or just running out of gas against teams like Alabama. I mean, you had your chances, and the numbers say you should have won more games than you did. If there is a positive there, which is what we're going to talk about here in a little bit, it's the fact that Auburn did some good things last year. You just feel like you got unlucky in some. And Hugh Freeze has talked about that. I know he mentioned it with his one-on-one with you. He's mentioned it in several other instances where there were some games we could have and should have won last year, and you have to overcome those, whatever you want to call them. You have to overcome those losses, yes, but you have to find a way to break through the unluckiness or the things that just don't go your way or things like that. You have to find a way around and through those because, we're talking about a crucial year 3 here with Hugh Freeze on the Plains. He knows that. We're not talking about anything new, but with the passing game, the running game, and the defense that you're going to have this year, you've got to find a way to win some ball games. And I think the passing game will be better this year with former 5-star Jackson Arnold on the team. Of course, one of the best receiving corps in the country. I think the offensive line should be improved this year. Running game is up in the air, but I think it'll be solid. So I expect Auburn's passing game numbers, Mike, to look very similar, if not better than what they were a year ago. You just got to get some wins to come along with it.
Yeah, look, on 3rd and 6 or longer, Auburn converted third downs at about a 55% rate. So, where would you see? Because, and I extrapolated the data from 3rd and short, which is 1 to 3 yards. So from, and I said 6 or longer. Let me correct that. That's from 3rd and 4 or longer. Auburn only 55% conversion rate on 3rd down. Where would you like to see that number here? In that 3rd and 4 to 6 area, it's still very manageable. Your entire playbook should be available to you from 3rd and 4. Auburn's just got to get better at executing on 3rd downs. On the other side of the ball, they gave up way too many 3rd down conversions. I wonder if those guys were able to at least do it on their defensive practice since they had an easy time letting other teams convert their 3rd downs.
Yeah, 3rd and medium, right? That's kind of what we're talking about here. 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, where you're right. Everything should be open in the playbook. This isn't 3rd and 1 where you bring in your bruiser or you bring in a running quarterback or you do some trickery and try to pick up a yard. This isn't 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 15 after a penalty and you're either trying to just save a little face and give yourself some room, or you're trying to, throw a deep ball and hope to get a PI. I mean, this is third and manageable, third and medium, whatever term you want to use, where everything should be at your disposal. You hope that Auburn has the confidence to run the football if you are able to, and if you're going up against a defense that has proven they can't stop you. Maybe you have that confidence to run between the tackles, or bring Jeremiah Cobb in motion, pitch it to him and let him get out wide. Or maybe you put the ball in the hands of your transfer quarterback, Jackson Arnold, and let him make a play with his arm, with his legs, finding one of those playmakers that he's going to have on the outside. I want to see that percentage, third and medium, third and 4, third and 5, third and 6. I mean, is 70% too high, Mike? I mean, is that too high of an ask to say, look, when it's third and manageable, you want to have confidence in this offense, and take third down out of it for this conversation. Just when you've got 4 or 5 or 6 yards to pick up, I want to have confidence in an Auburn offense for the first time in a long time to pick that up. When you need it, can we get it? Can Auburn get the yards you need when you need it the most? I mean, I don't remember the last offense that I have felt comfortable on 3rd and 5 saying, oh, yeah, we've got plays for this. They'll execute. We'll be fine. The drive will continue. We need to have that this year here on the Plains if Auburn wants to win some football games, because you mentioned the fact that the defense couldn't get off the field on 3rd down and the offense couldn't stay on the field on 3rd down. That's a horrible combination. Both of those things have to change, but I'm looking at 70+% on 3rd and medium, because if you can't pick that up, then you're not going to win many games anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's move on to red zone. Auburn in the red zone scored touchdowns last year on 78% of their red zone trips. I'm sorry, their score percentage was 78%. Their touchdown percentage was 48%. Their field goal percentage was 29%. And that's what comprised that 78%. Talk to me a little bit about the red zone. It is about scoring touchdowns and being able to finish off drives. Auburn has been unable to do that. They're going to have to find a way to getting in the end zone a little bit more often. Hugh Freeze talked repeatedly this offseason about how close he felt this Auburn team was to something special, a touchdown here, 10 points there, and certainly the scores and the games reflected that nobody was really running Auburn off the field, because they were able to serve defensively for at least most of the game and most of the important categories. Could it just be a percentage point or two here that means the difference between a 5-7 Auburn football team or, an 8-4 team or 9-3 team?
Yeah, I think it does. And look, it's hard to go back and look and say, well, if you scored a touchdown in the first quarter here rather than a field goal, then you probably go on to win the game, blah, blah, blah. It's hard to do that math. It's impossible to make those assumptions. But what I can tell you is that if Auburn's offense scored 4 touchdowns a game last year, they're flirting with 10 wins, Mike. The defense did their job on the scoreboard. They gave up 30 points one time, which was to Georgia, right? If Auburn's offense averaged 1 touchdown per quarter a year ago, Auburn wins 9 or 10 games, and our conversations are completely different in 2025 than what they are right now. So a lot of that came with red zone appearances, just not getting there enough. And then when you did, you were settling for field goals rather than touchdowns. And then you and I talked a few weeks ago about special teams and how you didn't have McPherson last year. You had to put Towns Magoo out there, who's a really talented kicker. He just got put in some tough situations, and he didn't execute the way that Auburn needed him to. And so that's where that low number comes from, the fact that when you got there, you didn't score a whole lot, but you just weren't getting there a ton either. And sure, Auburn had some big plays here and there. Of course, you can score from outside the red zone, but when you get to the red zone and then you're able to score a touchdown when you're in there, that tells me, Mike, that your offense is executing at a high level. It means that you went on a drive. It means that to start the game, when they kick it off and you take it at the 20 or the 25 or the 30-yard line, and you can go the length of the field and punch it in, how many times has Auburn in the last, 5 years to start the game, taken the football and drove down the field and scored? Doesn't happen all that often. Just get the keys and go on a drive. That's what Auburn needs to be able to do offensively whenever you need it this year. And that includes getting to the 20, getting inside the 20, and finding a way to put 6 on the board rather than settling for 3 because – look, we love Magoo, we love McPherson, but we don't know exactly what that's going to look like just yet in terms of their reliability, in terms of kicking. And look, field goals are okay here and there, but touchdowns win football games in the SEC.
They do. You and I talked last week about the importance of one Alex McPherson. Just before we get to the break, I want to note one stat, and then we'll be right back. In the wins, Auburn scored on 82% of their red zone trips. In the losses, they scored on only 69% of their red zone trips.
Yeah.
So they were able to get into the red zone. I can't stress that enough. In most of these games, enough to win. They just weren't able to score when they got it down there. Look, let's pay some bills. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this offense and where we feel like they can improve in 2025.
This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from the Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro's Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants.
This episode of the War Report is brought to you by friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. We appreciate them for sponsoring the show. Please go support them. Also want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights. Code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamal grills. The summer is here. You want to be outside grilling or just staying in shape or grilling something that's helping you stay in shape. Golden's Cast Iron. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Guys, let's jump back in here. Auburn was close. They were very close to something. I want to close today's show talking about that closeness again and where we feel like they need to land for this to be a successful season for Hugh Freeze. You know, you and I have had a bunch of conversations about that 8-win mark. I feel, though, that maybe people are underselling it based on previous results. Last year's team should have been where people are setting the bar for this year's team.
Yeah.
Honestly, 8 wins.
I think so.
As where they should have been setting the bar for last year's team. So are fans crazy to expect above and beyond those 8 wins based on where they should be this year? Because maybe it wasn't talent that was your holdback to getting the 8 wins last year.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because you look at how last year went and, you know, kind of what the expectations were going into last year was, all right, yeah, get 7 or 8 wins, kind of that 7.5 win total. And then, right, the idea was be good in year 2, compete in year 3. That's kind of just how you wanted it to go. That's what Hugh Freeze asked for. That's what fans were expecting. That's just kind of the general build with a new coach, a new regime in college football right now. And last year's team underperformed. There's no way to hide that. You went 5-7 in year 2. That's not good enough to get it done. And so I do think from a national perspective, Mike, that is kind of limiting the expectations for Auburn. But I think Auburn fans are kind of limiting expectations too, because let's be real, they don't want to be hurt again. They don't want to be disappointed. And I think a lot of them are in the boat of, well, if we expect it to be mid, if we expect it to be okay, if we expect it to be kind of average, and this team overperforms and they exceed those expectations, great. We're all here for it. Let's go. But it's so tough for fans to get in. Look, it happens every year. Once we get closer to the season, we're going to be at media days coming up in a couple of weeks, and some people are going to be hyping up Auburn and talking about the receivers and Jackson Arnold and Hugh Freeze, and fans are going to get excited, and they're going to slowly internally raise their expectations. But it's a lot easier right now, given what Auburn has been the last handful of years. It's easier to expect it to be worse and hope for it to be better rather than expecting it to be better and it end up being worse. Does that make sense? I just feel like they're in see it to believe it mode right now.
Yeah, I agree. That's where they're at. But, our expectations don't change what will be. So every year there are a few of us brave souls with the courage to go out and say what it should be. What it should have been.
Yes.
Right? And the truth is, I'm in the camp that it should have been where a lot of people are setting the bar for this year. That's what should have been last year. And the timeline doesn't change for Hugh Freeze. Where they should have been in year 2, like, you don't get a pass and you don't get a start over for year 3.
Right.
You've still got to make that jump to where they should be in year 3. You've got to find a way to make that jump, because the gap between where they were last year and where they need to be this year was way too wide, Jacob. The difference between, missing a bowl game was never even in the conversation for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't. And anybody saying that, we expected them to win a bowl game these first couple of years, you're lying to yourself.
Right. Or your expectations were a little too high. But I do think year 2, the expectation was, just look at the difference in what 7-5 versus 5-7 does across the board for expectations, for fan motivation, for recruiting, right? That's a big conversation going on right now too. Just everything across the board, the difference between 5-7 and 7-5, which is where you were supposed to be last year, it makes it such an uphill battle in year 3. But I'm with you, man. That doesn't give you an excuse. You can't use that if you're Freeze and this staff and this team. You can't use last year to your advantage and say, well, we were only 5-7 last year, and now we went 7-5 in year 3, so we made improvements, right? No, you're still behind schedule if you go 7-5 in year 3. So I'm with you on that. You have to now make up for what you didn't do in year 2, which makes it harder in year 3, but that's just reality, and that's how it goes. And look, everybody knows that, including Hugh Freeze, but the good news is you've got the team, you've got the schedule, and you've got the fan base to do it in 2025. I believe that. I really do.
I believe it as well. Look, man, Auburn has a chance to do something special this year. This schedule is here to allow it. SEC Media Days is coming, Jacob, so we'll sit down with Hugh Freeze and talk about where those expectations are getting as he gets closer to the season and fleshes out more of what his team has been during the summer, which will make them what they will be during the fall. Before we get out of here, I do want to talk about Jackson Arnold and QB development. QB development is going to be the thing that makes or breaks this coaching staff. Peyton Thorne, I think, in other years, last year's performance would have been able to get the job done with a little bit more cohesion and synergy between head coach and quarterback. Right now, we've made a big deal about Jackson Arnold building chemistry with his wide receivers. I wonder if it is not equally as important that same chemistry and trust is built between coach and QB, so we do not see a repeat of some of the things that we saw happen last year.
The word you used was trust, and I was going to use that listening to you. That's the word that came into my mind, and that's what I was going to use was trust between coach and quarterback. You have to trust that Jackson Arnold can make the right decision, because you remember last year, right, about halfway through, I can't remember after what game it was, that Hugh Freeze came in and talked to us on a Monday morning and said, he basically said, we've dumbed down the playbook. We have minimized it. We have made it smaller. We have simplified the playbook for Peyton Thorne, the offense and everything. And we, come to find out receivers were having checks and different things. Like, it was kind of crazy, but you have to be able to trust your quarterback if you're Hugh Freeze And if you're Jackson Arnold, you have to trust Hugh Freeze, and you have to trust the running backs and your receivers and your offensive line and your coordinators. Like, it just seems like everybody was going against each other last year. Everybody has to be moving in the same direction. There has to be cohesion. There has to be trust on all sides of this thing offensively, because if there's any doubt, you'll see it. You'll see it in the play calling. You'll see it in the execution. You'll see it in the communication on the sideline, which we did last year. You can't have that this year if Auburn wants to try and win 8 or more games.
I agree. You definitely cannot have that. Will they have that? That's something we'll track going into fall camp. Jacob Goins, I want to thank you for joining me. As always, before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can listen to my show On the Line each weekday, Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. on ESPN 106.7. If you're in Auburn, Opelika, or if you're across the state, across the country, ESPNAU.com. We have 7 straight hours of local sports talk radio coverage. So check it out, 2 to 4, ESPNAU.com.
Guys, if you're in the comments after the video and you want to support the work that we're doing here, do us a favor, smash that super thanks button. We appreciate our community for helping support our community financially. As I mentioned, we'll be at SEC Media Days. You definitely want to be a patron member for a lot of the patron-only content that will be coming out of there, giving you an in-depth look at Auburn football at SEC Media Days from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta this year. Also, hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.